Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to get started right away. We're going to be reviewing Deflate's new video. I'm going to bring in Christian J. Watkins. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, great. Just talking a little bit. We've been sitting here off backstage, just kind of hanging out for a few minutes, talking video games and things like that.
Mhm.
But we're going to watch a video today. Good old Deflate, the man with the killer wallpaper. I love that wallpaper. It's awesome.
Mhm.
See if I can get this right and not look like an idiot. Too late. Okay. So we know about Deflate. He's from. I don't know if he's from there, but I think he lives in Lebanon or something. I'm gonna get that wrong, so I'll just shut up. But yeah, he's basically the title of I put on the thumbnail is like that. He gets it right, but he misses the point. And I think we'll see that when we get into it. He's kind of talking about, he says he gets this from atheists. He says that they will say that Christianity is just a crutch, a psychological crutch that Christians use to get through the day and, deal with their problems. But we'll dive in and we'll see what he says.
I'm sure you've heard people say that religion is just a psychological crutch. That is, it's a nice way to comfort people in the face of the harsh realities of life. However, belief in God is nonsense. What you will learn in this video is why this argument not only gloriously fails, but completely undermines the atheist case. This is Lucas from Deflate, countering the skeptics' objections to Christianity. If you're new here, click that subscribe button to get our upcoming videos. So let's say my friend Charlie breaks his leg in a car accident. He's brought to the hospital, undergoes an operation, and has a cast put on his leg. During his recovery, I pay him a visit. After 15 minutes of sitting and talking in his room, we decide to get coffee and take a walk in the park surrounding the hospital. As he gets out of bed, Charlie tells me, "Hey, just grab me those crutches, please, will you?" Now, what will I do? Get the crutches, of course. But imagine I said this, "Hey, Charlie, come on, those are just crutches. They may help you walk with your broken leg, but why would you want them?" Now, would that make any sense? Obviously not. Or imagine I said, "Hey, Charlie, these crutches aren't real. They just make you feel better." Clearly, such an answer would be nothing but absurd. And yet, exactly the same logic is used when atheists claim that people believe in God because it makes them feel better.
No, that's not the same logic at all. So that's what's so he loves analogies. He really does. And because even the last video, it was lots of analogies, and they all fail spectacularly. So we'll just, I guess we can kind of, do we go for the low-hanging fruit and just point out that we can demonstrate the crutches actually exist?
I mean, that you could go there. I mean, I think what I would say the most effective critique of what he just said is that no one's saying that you cannot believe in God as a crutch. No one's saying that. I thought the claim was, is it a crutch? And by making an analogy that presupposes that it is a crutch, isn't actually an argument for why it isn't a crutch. So
Right.
Basically, this analogy is either proving our point or presupposing something that he should be proving. And either way, it just fails. Here's a better analogy. You broke your leg. You have a pair of crutches, right? Are those crutches useful? Yes. Is it true that those crutches exist? Yes, we can see them. Do any of those things apply to God? Next question. That's about as far as we can go with that analogy.
Well, I think something helping. We know that people can be convinced by a lie. People can feel better. So if you can be convinced by a lie, you can also feel better because of a lie.
Mm-hmm.
So this really doesn't matter. It's like,
I don't know why make a video about this when it's not even addressing the truth of the claim.
Yeah,
whether or not God is true, real.
From what I remember, I watched this video a couple of days ago, so it's been a couple of days since I've seen it. From what I remember, he's going to admit that, hey, just because someone might use this as a crutch doesn't mean it's true. But then he'll insinuate that it is.
Okay.
So yeah, it's fun.
And therefore, the belief itself cannot be taken seriously. The argument originates with none other than the famous psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud, who said in his book, Futures of an Illusion, we tell ourselves that it would be very nice if there was a God who created the world, and if there were a moral order in the universe and an afterlife. But it is the very striking fact that all this is exactly as we are bound to wish it to be. In other words, Freud thinks that because the notion of a loving God and of purpose corresponds to what we wish for, it is doubtful that these things would actually exist. And atheists have made use of the Freudian argument ever since. But how is it logical to say that just because we desire a thing, this thing doesn't exist? Well, it isn't logical.
Yeah, good.
So try to move back in the video so I can just see this statement without the wrong over it.
I'm sorry. Oh, see, I failed miserably.
There we go. Okay. So we desire a thing, therefore the thing does not exist. So yes, it's true that just because we desire a thing, it does not mean that it does not exist.
Right.
But the problem is that both of those two things, desire and existence, are completely irrelevant from each other. There's actually no way to attach them, right? Because you can desire something that does exist, and you can desire something that doesn't exist. Like if I want a 14-headed dragon from the depths of Haiti, right? That isn't something that exists, but I can still desire it. But let's say I want a vanilla ice cream that exists, and I can desire it. So obviously, desire and existence have no causal relationship with each other.
Okay, you're gonna have to stop reading his mind because this is like he gets. It's what's so funny. I don't want to skip ahead, but he gets that, and then ungets it. It's really strange. Let's go ahead.
Exist? Well, it isn't logical. Not only that, but the exact opposite actually seems to be much more plausible. I mean, have you ever felt the desire for really good food? Well, guess what? Really good food exists. Or have you ever felt the longing for a relationship of genuine trust, honesty, and love? Guess what? Such relationships can actually...
See? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, well, this is wrong. Just because we desire it, or just because we desire it, and it does not mean it doesn't exist. True, we get that. Then he's saying, but the fact that you desire it means it probably does exist. And then he gives,
I desire a world with no God.
Right. He gives a list of things that, like, hey, have you ever desired really good food? Mm-hmm. Yeah, based on prior data, because what I know that food will do for my hunger. Mm-hmm. If I had never seen food and never been hungry, I would have no desire for food.
The thing is, perhaps he has a point that you can't desire something that doesn't have a basis in reality. Like, for example, you couldn't desire something that you didn't know at least part of it existing. So the thing is that God is anthropomorphic. It's anthropomorphic in a sense, because you can desire God as a concept without desiring God as an actual thing that could exist, right? So I could desire a square triangle and say that to you and still actually not know what that would look like, because the concept is nonsense.
I think he's saying the fact that we actually desire it points to it existing.
Yeah, I don't really know how that's even.
That's what I got from it. That's kind of the impression I got. Maybe I'm misreading it, but
if that's what this individual is saying, then we have a serious problem, because I could list off dozens of things that I desire that don't exist.
All right, let's see what
be realized. Or have you ever had the desire to experience beauty in a way that opens up your imagination and gives you a sense of transcendence? Guess what? Music that causes goosebumps and inspiring art do exist, as well as breathtaking landscapes and scenic vistas.
See, doesn't it sound like he's saying, like?
Well, he's making the point that what you think of here can be an inspiration for what happens here, but that isn't the same claim, right? That isn't what you desire makes it more likely to exist. It means that what you desire can be malleable to what does exist. It's a completely different claim.
Right. It just seems like, I mean, all of this goes on prior experience. You say, I experienced this, I enjoyed this, therefore I desire to enjoy it again. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really take I said I can't really desire something I've never experienced.
Yes, yeah. So for example, you couldn't. Well, you could desire.
Well, I couldn't. I'm sorry. Let me just say that. I couldn't desire with an expectation that I would be able to attain it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's right.
Right. So I mean, we have no. So desiring something and having a reasonable expectation that you could attain this are two different things, also.
Or that it exists. Yeah.
Right. Or that it even exists. That the desire of something doesn't point to it's more likely that it exists. So, like I said, when he brings up the food and the beauty in the world and things like that, those are subjective things anyway. Because what someone finds beautiful, another person might not. Another person might find it boring. You know, we know people that like different kinds of art.
The point, though, is to call to subjective experiences that are vague enough to where you agree with the point.
Right.
Like that's the point of the analogy, I think. But
right. You say, well, everybody likes, everybody experiences these things. So, and these things are real. Well, are they? They don't really exist in a way that independent of ourselves, because beauty requires someone to perceive beauty, requires a mind.
And Christian makes a good point in the chat, but it's a bit of a sharpshooter fallacy, because where it is true that what you desire exists, he's making sure that you know that. But where it isn't true, he's omitting.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so really, just because we may long for there to be a loving God, meaning, and an afterlife, simply doesn't mean that these things are an illusion. In fact, these longings give us good reason.
Yeah.
We can go back to that text body, because wow, it's just absolutely remarkable, right? So yes, so what's happening here is a bit of an equivocation, because we started off the conversation with, is desiring something enough to confer it into existence? Does it make it more likely that it exists? But now we're on to, does desiring something mean that it does not exist? We've completely changed the wording and the conclusion and the premises, and now we're on something completely different. I don't think anyone disagrees with this statement that he's put up here.
Right.
This isn't a statement that anyone disagrees with. It's an absolute straw man to the argument.
Right. I don't think he's getting this actual argument saying that, oh, because you use this as a physical, I'm saying he gets the assertion that Christians use Christianity as a psychological crutch. Mm-hmm. I can use things that actually exist as a psychological crutch also. The fact that you use it as a crutch is not an argument against its existence. Mm-hmm. It's against the idea of, why are you just using this to make yourself feel better? Why are you basing this why are you pinning your hopes onto things that you don't have good reason to believe it exists or not? I don't think it's an attack on this. You desire it so it can't exist. I think he's missed the point completely on it, because he seems to be arguing against the argument that because you use it as a psychological crutch, it doesn't exist.
And the problem is, now that he's missed the point, the rest of this video is going to be a straw man.
Oh, yes. And I honestly, like, one of the things I thought about, like, putting in a thumbnail was like a scarecrow or something, because this is like a straw man I thought about doing a straw man Saturday kind of deal, because this was honestly, like, I get that impression, but it seems to be a common thread through a few of his videos is I don't know if he's actually getting these arguments from people, or if he's literally just, I'm going to make something up and argue against it. I don't know. He might be getting these. I can't say he's not, Mm-hmm. He might be talking to people. I've seen atheists say stupid stuff. I'm not, obviously that happens.
We're not levitating above the rest of us.
Right. So he might be getting these arguments, but I would say to him, if these are the ones you're responding to a very fringe view.
Which is still a straw man, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Or it's intentionally, like we did earlier, it's intentionally going after the low-hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm. Which, if I took every stupid theistic argument and made a video about it, I'd never run out of content.
Right.
I would never run out of it.
And
so
you'd have
take the best arguments.
Yeah, you'd have other Christians joining you saying, "Yeah, we agree this is stupid." Like Deacon came on last time we were reviewing a video. Deacon James came on and he was saying, "Yeah, these aren't good arguments either." So, but so we'll see what else he has to say. About 3 minutes in, third of the way through.
That these things are an illusion. In fact, these
I wanna watch
lines
that
give
one
us
too.
good reasons to at least take the concepts they correspond to seriously. And that's because our common experience tells us that the desires we have are usually satisfied by things that are
So that's what
false.
yes, that's what I was
Absolutely
getting
false.
to. That's what I was getting to. Desires we have are satisfied by things that are real. Sometimes.
Mhm.
I guess
It's not true. The reason why you desire something is independent of it being real, because we understand that desires don't come from practicalities. Desires come from what we wish to be true, and what we wish to be true tells us nothing about what is true.
right.
And that's the distinction.
It's whether or not we have. If you have actually desired something with the expectation of receiving it, that's the difference. Like you said, if I desire, the dragon that you said you desire the dragon, but if you actually say, I also expect to get a dragon, I also expect for this dragon to show up.
It's the difference between desires and existence.
Right.
Look at that, John. We just figured out exactly how this video is a bunch of flaming garbage. There we go. But we'll let this individual continue anyway.
Desires we have are satisfied by things that are real. Sometimes.
That's the wrong use of satisfied too, but regardless.
Yeah, I would say
This
not
isn't a
always.
grammar
I'd say you've demonstrated those two things aren't dependent on each other.
are in fact real. But that's not even the biggest flaw in the atheist's wobbly psychological crutch argument.
Yeah, that's not the atheist argument, but go ahead.
It's not even the
Because
biggest flaw.
the truth is that the whole thing backfires on them. Consider this. If people only believe in God because they want him to be real, even though he isn't, as the atheists
Nobody
try
said
to
that.
enlighten us.
Yeah, I mean, we no one says you want God to be real, so you believe in him.
I'm
Obviously-
charitable. I'd like to think that you have good reasons.
Yeah. So obviously, if I'm saying you just want that to be real, so if you've lied to yourself, you've deceived yourself. I don't know that
It's almost like you're quoting scripture.
You know? Yeah, I would know. I don't think I would ever say to somebody that you're just lying to yourself, because you can't lie to yourself.
Going on.
How do you lie to yourself? That's almost the stupidest statement ever. I can't lie to myself how do I tell myself something that I don't already believe?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's perhaps a topic of conversation for a different discussion, but I think that a little bit of this is a tiny bit of projection in a sense, because if you're going to say that we're trying to pretend like you believe things for bad reasons and that you're actually only believing it because of insert bad reason here, that sounds to me like exactly the sort of thing that you would do when you would say that we believe things because, we're ignorant, or like the Bible says, the fool is the person who denies Jesus Christ as Lord. It seems like there's some projection happening here.
True.
Couldn't it also be that atheists don't believe in God because they don't want him to be real,
No.
even though he is? It surely could be, because we're simply returning the favor and apply to the atheist the exact same kind of reasoning he or she is using. And the funny thing is that some of the most prominent atheist thinkers confirm.
So here's what Lucas does now. We saw this in the last video. He's about to.
Is he going to start
parade out.
showing clips of people saying
Yes.
that they wouldn't believe in God even if they?
Or something? Yeah, he's about to. He likes to go to the historical philosophers, like, oh, this atheist philosopher says this,
Okay.
and this atheist philosopher said this. So
Here's the thing: couldn't we find just as many clips of theists saying that even if God was proven to be not real, they would still believe?
oh yeah, that was the one, the famous one on the meme where the pastor's like, even if I saw in the Bible that 2 + 2 = 5, I would have to readjust what I think and believe that.
So it's not a theist or atheist thing. It's an absolutely stupid people thing. And there's idiots on atheists and Christian side, and you shouldn't use the idiots to represent the atheists or the idiots to represent the theists when they're idiots independent of their atheism or their theism.
Right. This just goes to, again, pick the best arguments.
What I just said. Take Thomas Nagel, for example, an atheist and former professor of philosophy at New York University, who confesses, "It isn't just that I don't believe in God. I don't want there to be a God. I don't want the universe to be like that." So, as we've seen so often, atheists end up deflating their very own case by putting forward their flawed arguments.
But what he didn't point out, the fact that Nagel could have separated those two. He didn't necessarily say that these two are together. It's like, I don't want there to be.
Even if he did, why are we using the specific to generalize?
Right.
It's a fallacy. It's a hasty generalization. Finding instances where a pattern is true in the specific is in fact not evidence that it's true of the general.
Right. And he didn't notice, also didn't say, you didn't see Nagel saying, I don't want there to be, that's why I don't believe. Mm-hmm. He's saying, I don't believe.
And I don't want there to be. Exactly.
He didn't tie the two together at all. Mm-hmm. And he also, did you notice, as we go back for a second, we see the dots there. These could have been completely separate points he was making. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that this is actually a good quote, or if this was a little bit quote mined and thrown together.
Yeah, it's dishonest by omission, because even if nothing of that omission was relevant to the point, the omission still makes it seem like these statements are said after each other.
Right. He's trying to make them tie together when, and like I said, I don't know the exact context of where this quote was found.
I think if you asked Thomas, like if you went up to Thomas and you're like, hey, what is the reason why you don't believe in God? I guarantee you he would not say, because I don't want there to be a God.
Right. I think he's smart enough to recognize the flaw in that. Yeah.
Want the universe to be like that. So, as we've seen so often, atheists end up deflating their very own case by putting forward their flawed arguments against theism. But there is more. Given that atheists keep shouting from the rooftops that they only hold views which are backed up with data, it's nothing but fair to ask, what's the evidence for the argument that religion is nothing?
We shout from the rooftops. Is this all of government, all of social structures, all of power in this country and most other countries is entirely religious? You couldn't win an election in the United States if you were openly advocating for atheism. You would lose immediately. This country's not ready for that. And you're going to tell us that we're shouting it from the rooftops that we're not being completely and wholly ignorant? If that's your best point, then I would ask you to reconsider. Because the idea that atheists or the new atheist movement is just so obnoxious in their pursuit for, good reasons to believe things. It comes across as an absolute embarrassment. It's not even an argument. Why is it that this individual, whenever he starts going into arguments, immediately follows them with non-arguments and insults?
That's a good point. Like I said, it goes to the persecution complex, though. It's you see it all the time in social media. The country's falling apart because we've turned away from God. They're taking away our rights. That we can't go to church anymore because of they're wanting us to. The coronavirus isn't real because they're doing this because they want to stop us from going to church so they can tear down the Christian values and things like that.
I always challenge those people. Name a single value this country was founded on that's good that wasn't secular.
Oh, but then it'll be, well, we got the do not kill and all that humans have value from the Bible, and that's a whole rabbit hole. You mean
thou shalt not murder, which was written in several holy books before the Bible?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try again.
I love the morality arguments. I really want to find someone, a theist, that I can really have
a video below this that said why evolution isn't evidence for atheism.
Yeah, I pointed out that or let me see. Let me see if I can look at it.
Because that's the video I want to do next week.
Why evolution does not support atheism. Yeah, I haven't watched that one yet.
No one said that it did.
Right.
I know it's not the video that we're watching.
Yeah.
But these titles let me be careful. They're not stupid. No. Actually, no, they're idiotic. They're not
They're
stupid.
provocative. They're provocative.
The thing, no one's ever said that. It's like address the arguments that we're making, not the arguments you wish we were making.
Right. I mean, it supports, I guess, if the only God you think is possible is, I commented on this when he posted it on Facebook. My response to the evolution video was, I said, it depends. If the God you believe in, if you say that your model of God is this God exists and this God could not exist in a world where allele frequencies change over time, then that God, yes, evolution does.
Or if you said the world was created 6,000 years ago.
Right. Or, well, that's not even with evolution, though. I mean, that's evolution occurred in that. But we could do that.
Well, no, I mean, the theory
we can do that with just geology. Yeah. Right. So, but if your God allows for that, then yeah, but nobody's saying that. If your God allows for a little frequency to change over time, then yes, that God, evolution does not disprove that God.
Yeah, no one ever said that evolution proves atheism. We're saying that evolution disproves certain God claims.
Right. Exactly. So if you come to me and say, if the Christian comes in and says, I believe in this God that created the earth 6,000 years ago and created all animals at the same time and humans the same time, humans have only been on the earth 6,000 years, things like that, then we can disprove that God. Yes.
Yeah.
Evolution. We would use evolution to do that.
That's a falsifiable God, because as soon as that's not true, the whole claim falls apart. Right.
And that's what I pointed out. And his response was kind of strange, but I don't want to try to remember it exactly because I might mess it up, because it's been a little bit since I addressed that. But yeah, I mean, it's you're trying to. He seems like he likes to argue against things that people aren't actually saying. The straw man. Well, some people might be saying that too. He literally might come across atheists who say, "Oh, evolution disproves God." Or, sorry, 1 second. People behind me messing with me. Okay, so yeah, let's see if we can knock a little more of this out. But yeah, as I was saying, he might come across some of these people who are saying that. So I can't say he's not, but it seems really obvious. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why he's attacking those positions. I don't know.
But the psychological crutch? Well, for starters, it's rather ironic that no other than Freud himself admitted to another psychoanalyst at the time that the views expressed in my book, The Future of an Illusion, form no part of analytic theory. They are my personal views. Wow, I'm impressed. In other words, there is not a shred of evidence for the argument that religion is just a psychological crutch. Instead, it's based on nothing but Freud's personal opinion, or to put it bluntly, his own wishful thinking. So I guess
nobody
Freudian
cares.
crutch argument
Nobody made that argument. Stop addressing it. I don't believe that. John doesn't believe that. No serious atheist believes that. Stop doing this. This is annoying. This isn't a rebuttal. This is a speech. You're preaching, and I don't like you. Don't dignify him by answering that point. Let him move on until he makes an argument.
The evidence-loving atheist is desperately clinging to. Now, those atheists who hope that maybe sometime in the future there will be evidence supporting the crutch argument are terribly mistaken, I have to say. I'm sorry. Why? Because the reasoning behind it is diametrically opposed to the laws of logic and commits what is called the genetic fallacy. What does this mean? Well, the way you come to believe in something has nothing to do with the question whether the content of your belief is true or false.
Okay, this is the part I wanted to get into. He is correct. This is the part where I say he gets it, but he misses the point. While the genetic fallacy does, he's right about the genetic fallacy. How you come to know something does not dictate whether it's true or not. But how you come to know something should have a bearing on your confidence level, whether how much you believe it, how confident you are that it's true. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't tell you whether it's true or not, but it should definitely have a bearing on whether and how confident you are in that belief.
Yeah, because if some random dude told you that the moon is made out of green cheese, you should be much more skeptical than if a scientific book told you.
Right, exactly. This is just consider the source. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
Consider the source of the claim.
But just for clarity, this still isn't an argument. Like, I'm waiting for this individual to make a single clear argument of why belief in God is not just a psychological crutch, and to stop switching it to us saying that it absolutely is. Like anyone ever said that ever for any reason. I'm still waiting for an argument. Not conjecture, not calling out fallacies. Saying that's a fallacy isn't an argument, right? Explain why the fallacy applies to the overall case you're making.
Right. It's like, okay, we agree. Just someone saying that, someone telling you that's just a crutch is not an argument that it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. We agree. So
that's not even the video title. The video title doesn't say anything about that. It's so ridiculous. The video title isn't even about that. It's just he's supposed to be debunking that belief in God is a psychological crutch, not whether or not it applies to it being true. This video isn't even talking about anything.
And but here's what's funny though. I think we're about to get to it, and I may not be able to contain my laughter when it does happen. Remember the title: "Belief in God is just a psychological crutch." And
example, I could have learned about Richard Dawkins having written his PhD on chicken behavior from a YouTube video, his grandmother, my grandmother, a book, or even through a dream. The truth that Dawkins' PhD is about chickens is simply not affected by the way I attained the knowledge of it.
Right, but your confidence in whether or not you believe it's true should be. If you had it in a dream, you should be less confident than if you were told by Richard Dawkins that he wrote this book.
And also, the reason why it's true is not because you dreamed it.
Right.
It's true. It's true.
In the same way.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what he said. But he's like saying that. I hope he's not saying that how you get the information should not affect your confidence, because that absolutely should.
I mean, if that's true, then I'll go ahead and get my understanding of Christianity from atheist forums from Reddit.
All right, I'll go on Google University and become a heart surgeon.
Let me do some open heart surgery on you.
Oh, by the way, real quick, side note. We get to a side thing because this applies, and you're here. I was talking with Otangelo, who has since blocked me. Mm-hmm. He friend requested me like 2 days ago. Now he's blocked me already. But he has this. Of course, he has this blog that he writes, and every time you ask him a question, he just goes and copies and pastes from his blog, and you get a 20-page dissertation from his blog called Reason in Science, which is a shit name for his blog anyway. And so I'm asking him, like I said, what's your education? What expertise? What do you have? Do you have degrees in this? You know, are you currently studying any of it? What is the deal? He's like, and of course he dodged it, which leads me to believe he doesn't have any expertise or education in these topics. He's like, are you going to say that I can't learn this on my own? I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying no one should have good reason to believe anything you say. This goes back to exactly what we're talking about in this video is I don't have any reason to have confidence in what you're saying, and no one else should either. You know, until you can, you know, the people you're able to convince is what indicates how good your research is.
I'll put it simply. The truth of a claim isn't impacted by the source of where the claim's coming from, but your confidence in the source of the claim should be affected by where it's coming from.
Right. It gives you, that's where we get into rational justification. Mm-hmm. It's like I said, if I hear that, you know, if I hear the germ theory of disease from a Facebook post, I should have less confidence in that than I would if I hear germ theory of disease from the medical consensus. Mm-hmm. Or the scientific consensus, I'd say. So yeah, these things do matter. That's why people are on constant. And then I asked him, I said, if I read everything I can find on the internet about heart surgery, will you let me do heart surgery on you? Mm-hmm. And that's when I got blocked. Because I think he realized, oh wait, he just showed everyone that I shouldn't be listened to. Because no one in their right mind would actually go, yeah, sure, no problem. You've read all the papers on the internet. You spent 20 years reading nothing but heart surgery papers off the internet. You should be good to go. And sadly, there probably are people who would probably think that's fine, but obviously, no one should be letting me do heart surgery.
Nobody who's doing surgery on my heart will think that's fine, but yeah,
I would hope not.
Yeah.
Right, because you kind of want, because your confidence is still not. And you said I showed where he still wouldn't be confident enough. So even his own method of attaining this knowledge is not good enough for him.
Mm-hmm.
So
it could be that people believe in God because they need comfort. And it certainly is the case that belief in God offers hope. I have no problem admitting that. But so what? Anyone who jumps on that and says that therefore the belief itself is false simply hasn't understood the basic principles of logic. Furthermore, anyone who thinks that...
Yeah.
I actually didn't have hope when I was a Christian. I was constantly terrified of sinning.
Yep.
So I actually didn't have any hope. And after leaving, I felt significantly better than when I was a Christian.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of former Christians who will who will give you attestations to the idea that Christianity doesn't bring hope. It actually actively promotes fear and obedience.
Guilt.
And if you consider fear and obedience to be hope, then rewatch the Star Wars movies and see who the bad guy is. But
right. I mean, yeah, I can back that up because I remember specifically like feeling guilty about thoughts. Things pop in your head and you're like, oh man, I must be doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I literally would feel like I needed to. I felt, like I said, I felt guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And now obviously I don't worry about that anymore. But
it's almost like
specifically,
you have hope.
Right. I specifically remember like feeling like I'd done something wrong by having a thought.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. It's like you said, that's exactly like you get out of that mentality and you realize, wait a minute, these are two separate things. Doing something and having a thought are two very different things. No reason to feel guilty because you've done nothing wrong for having a thought.
Yeah.
But under Christianity, you have.
Mm-hmm.
That following Christ is a ride on pink clouds with a Heavenly Father constantly tapping on your shoulder no matter what you do simply doesn't understand what Christianity is about. Now, I'm of course aware that there's a good amount of Christians out there who actually think that, and that's unfortunate. Nevertheless...
So he just admitted, there's a lot of people out there who actually do believe that.
And then he just dismisses them because they're obviously wrong for reasons he didn't explain.
Right, that's unfortunate they believe that. They're just wrong.
Cut to the next scene.
Right, but we'll just go over. We won't bother telling them why that's wrong. We'll just tell them they're wrong and go by.
The truth is that Jesus called those who follow him to deny themselves, to forgive no matter what, to love without boundaries, including their enemies, and to continuously stretch themselves in generosity, kindness, and self-sacrifice. What's more, Christianity holds that there will actually be a final reckoning where people will be held accountable for everything they've done. Therefore, Karl Marx was simply wrong when he said that religion is the opium of the people. And so are the atheists in his stead, who put together the Humanist Manifesto and claimed that traditional religions offer solace to humans. The standards Jesus put up for his followers.
Karl Marx quote means. The Karl Marx quote about religion being the opium of the masses is not about it making them feel good. It's about making them docile. Look at the historical context of what Marx said. Marx said that religion is used as a tool of the upper classes to make it okay to rule ruthlessly and with obedience. That's what he's saying. That's why he's saying it's the opium, because opium makes you feel everything's fine. Opium doesn't bring you happiness. That's not what Marx meant at all. And there's no humanist manifesto. Can I cuss on here?
Sure.
Can we cut the absolute line of bullshit that people who ran like Chairman Mao, these people who are supposedly secular, who demand unquestioned obedience and total loyalty to the state. Like, that's a secular idea. You know what that sounds a whole lot like? It sounds like the first commandment. That's exactly what it sounds like. And the idea that secular states are secular by virtue of them not believing in God, and that means that all the practices they have are necessarily humanist, is a crock of absolute bullshit.
Yeah. You can have non-humanist secular societies. It's absolutely possible.
Do not offer solace, nor do they have any of the soothing effects of opium. On the contrary, following through with what Jesus taught is a challenge, which is why he told everyone to count the costs before committing to him. Compare that to atheism, which ultimately implies that you're a law unto yourself. Now,
no, that's not true. We do recognize we live in a society. We don't just think we don't sit around thinking, I just got to deal with me and everybody else does. What I do doesn't affect anybody else. That's not true. That's an idiotic freaking position, and nobody that I take seriously would actually say that. So, again, the straw man. So yeah,
I appreciate the Black Lives Matter fist, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate him supporting the movement.
Hey, I guess I don't know what the fist means. Like I don't know what he was.
No, because
clearly,
clearly, what I interpret is right, and I can't be wrong. So he's clearly supporting Black Lives Matter. So,
right.
I am not saying that atheists are a bunch of anarchists going around wreaking havoc. No. But the fact remains that in atheism, you ultimately won't be held accountable for any of your actions.
Ultimately. Why is that word
smuggle in?
Yeah, why is that word always there? You have to use that because you know that if God's not real, we still are held accountable for things. Most of the time, sometimes, as much as possible.
Basically, he smuggles in ultimacy as a premise for God, so that if you reject that statement, you would be accepting the proposition that ultimacy can come from God in any way. Which I mean, like I said, this is boring, right? This is like apologetics 101. Of course, if you put in the words like when they say a creation demands a creator, or a design demands a designer, like they've already presupposed that there's a designer. So why even bother talking about the point?
Right. It's the tautology at that point. It's congratulations on stating the obvious. And every time I hear the word ultimately, I always cringe.
Here's my Marxist heathenist medal for good logic.
Right.
Even though I can't ground them, apparently.
We're about to get to the appeal to this sense of ultimate justice and what if atheism's true, that people are gonna get away with stuff. Yeah.
Seriously, is he actually?
Yes.
Play it.
No matter what you do. Add to this the fact that selfishness comes far easier to us humans than the self-sacrificial lifestyle Jesus demands. And it seems safe to say that it's actually atheism which offers comfort and consolation for those who don't want to face the challenge of accountability. That's exactly what the Nobel Prize-winning author Czeslaw Miłosz expressed when he said that a true opium of the people is a belief in nothingness after death, the huge solace of thinking that for our betrayals, greed, cowardice, murders, we are not going to be judged. So, does faith in Christ offer hope? For sure it does. Is following him comparable to a trip on opium? Far from it. Does the Freudian myth of belief being a crutch render faith in God false? Not even in the ballpark. Instead, it seems that atheism is the actual drug. Now, does this show that atheism is wrong? Certainly not. To say so would be to use the same illogic atheists use for their crutch argument. But what it does show is that if there is anyone leaning on crutches, it seems to be the atheist, the crutch being their flawed crutch argument itself. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, so I mean, we can I think we've kind of addressed this.
Can we not do any more of his videos?
Yeah, we could move on to some other stuff.
Find an actual video Like, I don't know. I don't mean openly a jerk because, like, I don't know. What just happened to Christian's messages? Oh, never mind.
But yeah, so it's I always get this this appeal to, well, if there's no God, there's not going to be any ultimate accountability, and y'all are just trying to not be held accountable for things.
Y'all just want to sin.
And that's what it is. It's the y'all just want to sin argument. You just want to not be accountable for things that you know are wrong. Well, no, we don't know they're wrong. A lot of the things you say are wrong, we've actually realized aren't wrong because we have different definitions of wrong now. And, you know, not having ultimate accountability is not a problem for me. The fact that, you know, I realize that there's going to be a bell curve for accountability, just like there is anything else. Some people are going to get away with some things, and some people are going to get accused of things and convicted of things and punished for things they didn't do. But hopefully, the idea is that the bell curve, that most people fall in that bell to where they're held accountable proportionate to what they've done. And that's the thing that he seems to miss is what part of Christianity has any, or this ultimate accountability, what part of that has any proportionality to it? Because according to him, there's just one punishment. Ultimate punishment. There's no proportionality at all. Why is it we're better at accountability than God is? Because I think he would agree that if our court system put everyone in prison for life, regardless of the offense, we'd have a messed up court system.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he okay with it on the other end? Why is he okay with it with a non-ultimate system of accountability?
Sorry, just Dean came in the chat.
Oh, Dean did?
Yeah, Dean from the Daily Apologist. Love you too, Dean.
Oh, yeah, Dean on axiomatic humanism. I don't know what axiomatic humanism is. I'm not really sure what that is.
It's secular humanism with the addition of involuntary imposition of will.
Okay.
He's referencing a time when he called into one of the call-in shows that Ethan does, and we talked about morality.
Okay. I can't really say anything is wrong. Yes, I can. I can say that I think something's wrong.
Can you get Dean on here?
If he can come on, Dean, if you want to come on, let me know. Message me on Facebook, and I'll send you the link.
I can always send you the link, Dean. If I don't know if you might be busy. I know that you have been recently.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to come on, that's fine.
Yeah, we just finished up reviewing this video. I was gonna go on the Atheist after party, but that's not gonna be for another like 40 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
I'll probably go over and watch that too. If Dean wants to come on, absolutely. But yeah, we get into the morality thing because this idea of you can't say anything's wrong. I can't see anything's wrong for you. I can't see anything is wrong I can't say this has to be wrong for you. You're right. I can't say this is wrong for me and for you because I am not thinking your thoughts. I am not in charge of your thoughts. Right? So to me, morality is an opinion. It is a preference. It is what you would like to have happen in a given situation. In a given situation, and that's why it's situational also, it's because it's not going to be across the board rules. Something wrong in one situation might not be wrong in another. There are some things that I can't think of any situation where that would be wrong or where something would not be wrong. Does that mean that situation doesn't exist? I don't know. But yes, I can say something's wrong.
To me, it's simple, right? Morality is I feel this is this way. And no matter if you base it on the Bible, if you base it on secularism, if you base it on humanism, we're all just talking about what we think is true. And the best way we can substantiate that is through empirical analysis, scientific inquiry, all sorts of things that we can say make our case better for why well-being is preferable, for why involuntary imposition of will is preferable. But at the end of the day, what we're really saying is a value statement, which is necessarily subjective, it's necessarily preferential, which is I don't like it when this thing happens, and the society would be better if we didn't do that thing. And you could be totally right that you provide good long-term benefits and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's a preference. And no matter how many times you appeal to a god or appeal to a book, it doesn't change the fact that we're talking about preference. And we can have an actual real discussion about which preference ought to be preferred based on other value structures. But it's not just as simple as God says so, and that makes something morally good. It just escapes the whole discussion. The discussion should be about what should we value, why should we value it, what are the reasons why we could or could not value something. That should be the discussion. The discussion shouldn't be over before it starts by saying that it's whatever God says.
It's definitely a non-starter when you say that God says this, so we should do it. Because one, you don't have
subjective.
Yeah, you also don't have access to what God says, and you can't demonstrate you do. Yeah,
subjective.
Oh, it would. And I had this discussion with someone a couple weeks ago. If the people like to point to the fact that we all agree, we all most of us anyway, agree on these things as being immoral. Doesn't that point to some standard outside of us? Well, no. It points to the fact that we all share common traits. To me, the fact that the majority of human beings find murder immoral, or find the unjustified killing of another human being immoral, is no more compelling or special to me than the fact that we don't find cat feces next to the tomatoes in the grocery store, because no one wants those. No one's going to the grocery store to buy cat feces to take home and eat. We've all kind of agreed on the kind of things we like, the kind of things that generally we prefer.
We're all very similar
right.
people. I mean, we're in the same species, so it's not surprising that there's universal preferences or even pseudo-universal preferences that we all have. But the point is there's still preferences,
right?
And saying that if I were to find 1 million people who thought that punching babies was fun, right? That wouldn't make it universal, and it wouldn't make it objective. It would mean that a large amount of people have a preference that falls under this certain category. So providing me with a book that says that a super species, a super intelligence, whatever, says that something is true, that doesn't tell me anything about why I should prefer it, or how that being says such a thing, or why I should care. And
the argument I get a lot of times too is, well, you couldn't, on your worldview, you would have no justification for telling that 1 million people that they're wrong. It's like I can tell you that I think you're wrong.
No, of course I can tell them that I think they're wrong. It's called I think you're wrong because I value different things than you do.
Right, exactly.
And I think your value system is destructive.
And I will try to, and at that point you can say, I will do my best to gather the rest of the humans who think like me, because I think this society is preferable to the one you seem to want, where punching babies is done.
And it is a tough question. It's not like these questions aren't hard, but the point is that inserting a God doesn't make these questions less difficult to answer. And just because these questions are uncomfortable and because we have to discuss them at length to come up with really good solutions, we're not justified in positing a God hypothesis just because the question is hard to answer.
And I've always wondered why could
the answer.
Why also couldn't someone just appeal to a different God and say, well, I have the same justification for my morality as you do, but mine's different.
Yeah, the epistemic justification for all moral systems is I feel this way.
Yeah,
that's the basis of every moral system. It's I feel this way, and is it in conflict with other things that I feel? And so it's like, for example, I feel the Bible is true, and I feel the teachings in the Bible represent what God says, and I feel that God is the ultimate authority. Therefore, I feel that what God is saying is right here. There's so many I feel statements. Not a lot of objectivity there. Even in a theistic model, there's not a lot of objectivity there. And even if you wanted to say that you're accessing some special vein of knowledge that's subjective, it doesn't change the fact that you're epistemically, subjectively taking it and applying it to your life, because knowing what a God wants, if a God exists, and why you should care are all subjective assessments.
Right. You could always say, that's fine. I choose not to agree with this God. Even if I say that God does exist, I choose to disagree with this God's assessment.
Which if the God of the Bible was true and was endorsing things like slavery, then I would disagree with God.
All right, and the fact that we're able to disagree, doesn't that point to the fact that it's not universal?
Yeah, it would point to the fact that at very least, some sort of free will exists, independent of the preference of the almighty sky. Well, I'm not. Well, Dean's watching. I was gonna say almighty sky daddy, but I know that he hates when I do that. So I'll just say the almighty, the almighty.
Deal
God.
with it, Dean. No, I'm just kidding.
But if I
like
think
Dean.
that he's going to try to be on the empathetic atheist after party, and we've been doing this for like an hour.
Yeah, I might get over there too. Yeah,
I'm gonna watch that and grab myself some dinner.
Awesome, man. Well, I thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining the stream with us tonight. Whoever's watching, whoever watches it later, you should have caught it live. That's why you suck. And no, I'm just kidding. Please like and subscribe. Help me out.
Dean said, "Say it," right?
Say it.
So now I gotta say it. Say it. I was.
He was a Marine. Okay, hold on. let me speak to him in his native language. Morality is a preference. You got to make your hand a knife. Marines understand that kind of thing. No,
I was just almighty sky daddy. There we go. You're welcome. Now you can quit me saying that, so that later on when I'm doing my atheist activism years from now, you can say, Christian called God an almighty sky daddy.
He can sound bite you.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll be on his soundboard. Sky daddy. Anyway, thank y'all for showing up. Christian, as always, loved it. Brings so much awesome stuff. I don't even do anything. You're great. I need to bring you on and be like, Christian, go push play.
I'm always happy to come on. It's always a pleasure.
Killed it, dude. Thank you.